There was a time when she poured herself into people who were half empty. She thought love meant healing others, fixing their wounds, and carrying their storms. But now she knows that's not compassion, it's self-abandonment in disguise. An awakened woman no longer bleeds to keep others warm. She listens, she cares, but she doesn't carry what isn't hers. She's learned that empathy without boundaries becomes exhaustion, not love. Now, when someone refuses to grow, she doesn't push, she pauses. Because peace is no longer negotiable. She chooses stillness over chaos, distance over emotional drama. And if helping someone costs her inner calm, she understands. That's not healing, that's harm. So she lets go, with quiet grace. No anger, no resentment. Just clarity. Her new compassion doesn't come from guilt. It comes from wisdom, the kind that says, I can love you deeply and still protect my energy. 2. The boundary of self-worth. She used to crave validation, words that made her feel seen, loved, enough. But those days are gone. Now she understands that self-worth isn't something you earn, it's something you remember. She's done outsourcing her value to opinions that change with the wind. She no longer performs for approval, nor shrinks for acceptance. Her worth no longer depends on who stays or who leaves. It is steady, rooted, not rented. She moves with quiet confidence, not loud ego. She doesn't chase being liked. She chooses being aligned. Because once a woman awakens, she no longer begs to be chosen. She chooses herself. Criticism doesn't break her, and praise doesn't define her. She walks her path knowing she's both masterpiece and work in progress. And the world's noise? It no longer echoes in her heart. She's built peace so strong, even rejection can't shake it. That's the power of remembering your own worth. You stop waiting to be enough. You realize you already are. 3. The boundary of energy. There's something sacred about her energy now. She used to give it freely, to everyone, everywhere, all the time. But now she guards it like sunlight on a cold morning. Because she's learned, not everyone deserves access. Energy is currency, and peace is priceless. She no longer entertains chaos disguised as connection. She doesn't explain her silence, nor justify her distance. If it drains her, she detaches. Not out of pride, but protection. Her presence has become selective, not out of arrogance, but awareness. She knows that what she allows will either nourish or deplete her. So she invests her light wisely. Around her, you'll feel calm, not because she's quiet, but because she's centered. She has learned that real growth happens when she stops running after noise and starts listening to her own stillness. And in that space of gentle solitude, she shines differently, not to be seen, but to stay serene. 4. The boundary of silence. Once upon a time, she explained everything, her feelings, her choices, her worth. Now she knows, silence is power. She no longer wastes words on those committed to misunderstanding her. Because she's realized that peace doesn't require an audience. Her silence isn't emptiness, it's elegance. It's the sound of self-respect. She doesn't argue to prove she's right. She allows truth to reveal itself over time. In her silence, there's confidence, the kind that doesn't need to shout. When someone leaves, she doesn't chase. When something ends, she doesn't beg. She simply bows to the lesson and lets life move through her. Her calmness isn't weakness, it's mastery. Because she's learned, is like whispering poetry to a wall. It won't hear you, and it doesn't deserve your softness. So she stays silent not because she has nothing to say, but because not everyone deserves to hear her voice. 5. The boundary of emotional manipulation. There was a time she mistook manipulation for love, confusing guilt for care, control for concern. But no more. She now reads energy better than words. She can sense when affection has an agenda, when kindness hides a hook. Gaslighting, guilt-tripping, silent treatments. She recognizes the pattern before it begins. And when it appears, she doesn't fight or fix, she leaves. Because an awakened woman no longer bargains with clarity. She knows that anyone who makes her question her sanity isn't protecting her peace, they're poisoning it. She no longer lets emotional games pull her out of her balance. She walks away without a storm, without a scene. Her revenge is her silence. Her closure is her calm. She knows, when love becomes manipulation, it's not love anymore. So she doesn't react, she reclaims. That's her power now, calm recognition over chaotic reaction. She's not cold, she's conscious. 6. the boundary of intimacy. She no longer confuses attention for connection. There's a difference. One feeds the ego, the other feeds the soul. She's learned that intimacy isn't about touch. It's about truth. It's being seen without performance, loved without pretending. She's done entertaining surface-level affection. That disappears when she's not convenient. Her love now is quiet, deep, intentional, given only to those who understand its weight. She doesn't chase chemistry. She seeks compatibility of spirit, because she knows temporary passion can't replace lasting peace. She values conversations that make her think, silences that make her feel safe, and connections that don't demand she dim her light. Her love has matured. It's no longer a cry for belonging. It's an offering of peace. She no longer wants to be someone's escape. She wants to be their mirror, reflecting truth, not illusion. And if the energy isn't mutual, she releases it without bitterness. Because she's learned that real love never requires you to lose yourself to keep it. 7. The boundary of self-abandonment. This is the most sacred boundary of all. She no longer abandons herself for anyone. Not for love, not for belonging, not for peace. Because she's learned, abandoning yourself is the first step to losing everything. She remembers the days she said, yes, when her soul screamed, no. When she twisted herself into someone else's comfort zone. Those days are gone. Now she listens to her body, her intuition, her inner voice. If it feels heavy, she lets it go. If it feels wrong, she doesn't force it right. She's learned that self-betrayal is too high a price for connection. So she chooses herself, over and over, not out of selfishness, but sacred responsibility. And in doing so, she becomes whole again. She doesn't need permission to be at peace. She doesn't apologize for her boundaries. She doesn't explain her healing, because she finally understands. The moment you stop abandoning yourself, you stop needing anyone else to save you.